Okay, so you guys all saw the diagnostic. You've seen the report that we wrote about the different cultures that are involved in this merger, how both of them are strong, both of them got lots of assets, but very different in a number of ways. For example, you guys much stronger on profit, the focus is on profit, you guys, or profitability, you guys much more interested in market share and just all the behavior that produces. The tendency for you to be more focused on the task, like just do it. Over here, much more relationship, much more orientated towards caring for people on the way through. So you can imagine that as we put these two organizations together, there's going to be some issues as people think differently. And because you are the integration team, because you're the people who are responsible for actually helping the organization to put these two groups together, I want to spend this next session really helping you to understand what is the human dimension of this, what is going on inside of people's heads as they come into this merger, and how can you plan for and manage and support people to move through, to let go, to move on as fast as they can, so that their behavior and the way that they think enhance the merger, enhance the value, rather than create some kind of a break to what it is we're trying to do. So I'd like to spend a few minutes before we get into the planning side of this, just showing you what I've called here the mindsets that occur during a merger. And I should let you know that every merger that I've done, and I've been involved in a lot of consulting, advising, sitting very close beside the teams, every single one, with really every single person who is involved. I watch people going through these stages. It's something that I think is tribal. I think it's very deep in us. It's not something that I've seen people be able to bypass altogether. But I have seen people move through these stages I'm going to show you faster, and I've seen other people move through them much more slowly. Now, as I go through them, what I want you to recognize is that you are also a part of this process. So although you're a part of the integration team, you're not immune from the things that I'm going to be talking about. So you have the challenge, and I know that you were talking about it yesterday when you were saying, sometimes I feel myself in this, and sometimes I feel myself, outside it. Remember you were talking about that. So that's kind of the process you're going through. So hopefully this will help you a little bit of self-reflection, as well as help us to think about how can you help everybody else through your planning, through your support, move through this to the way that you plan the integration. Okay, so there are 5 stages here, and the first one that I want to show you, I call My Way is the Only Way. And this way of looking at the world happens in people who've really not seen many different organizations. So maybe, probably here in the room, I think all of you have had enough exposure to other organizations to recognize that there are other ways of running a business other than yours which kind of work. But this one, of course, is born out of ignorance. The next stage, the second stage, is much more common. And that is, my way is the best way. And that way, I have to say, I am seeing a lot of at the moment in your organization. Yeah, okay, you're seeing it as well. Very normal. I think what seems to happen is even people who previously were quite negative about their organization, once they go into a merger, it's like suddenly they become very protective of it, and there's a sort of a tribalism that kicks in, and you can see people feeling that this is the culture, this is the way that I want things to be. And this, of course, can be very damaging in terms of how we can build the organization together. And there's a kind of an arrogance that comes in, and you can see people pointing fingers and so on. But that's a common phase. The next one down from that, which is really where the transition starts to happen, is where people start to say, okay, you have a good way too. They're not at the point of saying they necessarily want to adopt the other way, but at least they're recognizing, as I think we did earlier in the discussion that we had on the report, the diagnostic report, that the other system, the one that you haven't come from, is a functioning system. It has worked. It's that organization has been successful. The culture has been effective. It was fit for purpose. So suddenly you're saying, okay, I can respect that you have a different way. Now let's move on to the 4th stage. And the 4th stage is really where the magic starts to happen. Because the fourth stage is saying, I want to learn about your way. Now, I know that in a lot of the integration activities you're in, you need people, you need to be looking at best practice. You need to be able to understand how the different, how the IT systems works in that organization, how the product works, how marketing works, and you need to be able to see what is the best practice. And yet it's quite difficult sometimes for people who are in the early stages to actually recognize that. And so it can happen that you're not making good decisions at the beginning because you're not able to have that objectivity. And I see that as very much a part of your role, is to make sure you can get to this stage very fast as an individual where you can not only respect the others here in the room, but actually be wanting to learn how they do things. And I saw some of that. I'm just starting to see some of that happening where you're going, gosh, hey, you do that way, hey, that's good. All right, now at the final stage, which is where you'll really be building the new organization, is where you get to, okay, let's build something together. And I notice it in the way that people talk, and particularly the way that they use the word we. That shifts. But what shifts is that people start, when they get to this fifth stage, the we represents us, the new organization. Whereas in the early stages, it's, we do it this way, meaning my old organization, and let me find out how you are doing it. So the you means the second organization. So it's always a little bit of a trick that I have up my sleeve to watch how fast an executive team is moving through, is how quickly they are able to move down these phases and start using the word we differently. Now, I have a pretty strong belief, which I'll tell you guys as well, and I think we should consider it together, which is that it is natural that people go through these phases. The job, your job, our job, whatever, is how can we help people move through these stages faster? Because really, you can't afford to have people in this organization being this way, thinking this way for very long. I think you have to accommodate in the early stages, but I would say roughly maybe within 6 months, normally what I say is, if people are still in this space, at level 2 in particular, 6 months from now, especially people who are in key influencing leadership roles, you need to consider whether they're going to make it, whether they have a place in this new organization, because they are poisonous. So our process now, what we'll go on to into this next stage, is what are the tools, what are the processes, what are the activities that you can plan for and put in place as one of the streams of integration that will deliberately help people to move through these phases very fast, so that the organization can move to go ahead and do all the great things that you guys are going to do as a merged group. So that'll be the next session that we run.